Hey guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So as we just discussed, people are still suffering from Hurricane Helene.
Right here in these Appalachian Mountains, we have brothers and sisters that are stuck, that are trapped. It has been 7 days since Hurricane Helene hit the United States. We don't know how many homeless people had camps set up in those mountains. I can tell you now where I live, there was homeless camps set up all along the river. And now they're gone. You need to understand there are bodies washing up. This ain't a joke. There is counties in North Carolina that don't have enough body bags. They have already filled thousands.
Many don't have power, and so they can't apply to get those $750 that Kamala Harris has promised that FEMA can provide them. She also thought that now would be the best time to provide nearly $157 million to Lebanon. The people of Lebanon are facing an increasingly dire humanitarian situation. I'm concerned about the security and well-being of civilians suffering in Lebanon. Okay, I understand. Maybe, though, we should prioritize the suffering Americans? Because last time I checked, this is not Lebanon. Put the Americans first, Vice President, and then we can worry about Lebanon, about Ukraine, about Israel, about the illegal immigrants here, giving them free housing while there's a housing crisis. How about we put American citizens first? I know, crazy idea. Crazy idea. It's so heartless to want to prioritize those who are drowning, who have no water, food, or shelter, who are watching their loved ones die while you choose to send money overseas. And we'll continue working to help meet the needs of all civilians there. Right. To that end, the United States will provide nearly $157 million in additional assistance to the people of Lebanon for essential needs such as food, shelter, water, protection, and sanitation to help those who have been displaced by the recent conflict. This additional support brings total U.S. assistance to Lebanon over the last year to over $385 million. Because obviously we should be worried about those people having essential needs such as food, shelter, water. It's not like we should focus on the people in our own country first and get them those essential needs such as food, water, and shelter. I didn't even think this was actually Kamala Harris. I thought this was a joke when I first read this tweet. She really does think this is an appropriate time to send that money. She is proudly leaving victims of the hurricane without adequate support, choosing to prioritize people abroad instead of focusing on our own domestic crisis.
I am literally flying around in a civilian helicopter looking for SOS messages carved in the mud or painted on the ground, and we're dropping down and saving them. Me and my team did the rescue of that 11-day-old baby. All these government officials and social media, they're showing that video, that pictures and video of that rescue, and claiming like they have some like government help with that. No one's out there doing rescues. I have my entire team up here from Florida right now, and they have no ability to go rescue these people other than what they can drive to. These people are limited medication, they're running out of oxygen, and there's no one going to get them. They got money for everything else in the world right now, but if they could just get us helicopters, we could fly out there and rescue these people.
We also have Hurricane Milton to worry about and its potential to cause severe destruction as well, which by the way is now a Category 5.
With those maximum sustained winds at 160 miles per hour, it is sitting 735 miles southwest of Tampa, Florida. And again, the pressure has dropped. This storm has gone through extreme rapid intensification.
So while again, we have to expect even more destroyed infrastructure, lack of emergency services being provided to those families, and Milton hitting those same areas that are already struggling to recover from Helene. And of course, Kamala continues to avoid serious and even challenging interviews, right? Where she might have to actually defend her decision she has made as vice president or talk about her proposed policies. Unfortunately, it is not a surprise that we can't rely on her for being direct or transparent with the public. She continues to focus on entertainment, playing it safe with these interviews. But you know what? She did think it over. She saw all the destruction. She understands that now would be the perfect time to sit down, have a serious conversation, what she can do about the people suffering, especially in states that have been affected by Hurricane Helene. Did I get you? No, of course not. Now is the perfect time to go on the Call Her Daddy podcast. While people are dying.
Who work with the and the
okay,
on
so
a man.
The it really depends on the guy. Like some guys don't like it.
Yeah.
Some have and you can on them.
Yes.
Put them all.
Yeah.
Like some
Other
guys
are like
yeah. Whenever you try to do it.
So this apparently is a pretty popular podcast specifically among women, and it's known for its sex-positive discussions. Some titles of the episodes from this lovely podcast: Al Dente and Faking Dirty Talk. You're not crazy, he's an blow hall passes and frat daddies. He cheated. Do I leave? So let's take a look at some clips.
You don't do too many long form interviews.
Oh yeah, I wonder why.
What made you want to do Call Her Daddy today?
Well, I think you and your listeners have really got this thing right, which is one of the best ways to communicate with people is to be real.
You can't keep it real when discussing serious topics in like an actual interview.
You know, and to talk about the things that people really care about.
Some have and you can on them,
Yes.
put them all.
What I love about what you do is that your voice in your show is really about your listeners. And I think especially now, this is a moment in the country and in life where people really want to know they're seen and heard and that they're part of a community, that they're not out there alone. And so I'm really glad to be with you.
Thank you.
We need to be seen and heard and feel like we're part of the community, so I won't do interviews. This reminds me of the debate where Tim Walz was asked, why did you lie about being in Hong Kong? And when he was confronted, this was his response.
You said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service.
He grew up riding his bike around the neighborhood, and he's proud of that service. That's why he lied about being in Hong Kong.
I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Those same people elected me to Congress. Donald Trump should have come on one of those trips with us. I guarantee you he wouldn't be praising Xi Jinping about COVID, trying to do the best you can for your community. Those are the things that I think are the values that people care about.
Right, so a whole bunch of nothing, because both Kamala and Tim here cannot answer the question. In Kamala's case, why don't you ever sit down for interviews? Well, it's like so important to be part of a community, and I just really appreciate what you do here, and I had cereal for breakfast.
I don't hear no. I don't hear no. And I urge all the daddy gang, don't hear no. Just don't hear it.
The daddy gang. All right, so the podcast here, which mostly deals with a lot of sexual themes, Kamala's on here saying, don't hear no.
And can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision?
I know what you're going to ask.
About a man's body. Let's
No.
just pause.
No.
Is there any law?
No. It's no.
Have you heard of the military draft? I don't know, like being legally required to register.
I have seen girls on the street walk up to men and be like, do you know where a tampon goes? Do you know how many tampons we use?
So again, this just further shows her avoidance of serious policy-driven questions and interviews. I feel like she should be addressing actual urgent issues, especially how the FEMA resources are not reaching the people who need it most right now. I don't know, this whole thing is so tone deaf.
I was the first vice president or president to ever in office go to a reproductive health care clinic.
Now, the host of Call Her Daddy, Alex Cooper, is facing some backlash, right? This has made the fans upset. However, I'm more concerned with the fact that Kamala Harris thought this was a good idea. But I'm even more concerned about her tweeting, sending all that money to Lebanon right after she witnessed what's happening due to this hurricane and how FEMA does not have the funds. Speaking of FEMA, Elon Musk retweeted this. This is from End Wokeness, FEMA Disaster Preparedness Meeting. We should focus our efforts on LGBTQIA people. They struggled before the storm. FEMA relief is no longer about getting the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. It's about disaster equity. Let's watch.
Thinking about preparedness and how you said, LGBTQIA people and people who have been disadvantaged already are struggling. They already have their own things to deal with. So you add a disaster on top of that. It's just compounding on itself.
You're so right. Non-LGBTQ people, like straight people, they didn't have to deal with anything before this natural disaster. No, only LGBTQIA people have struggles, right? Everyone else, they're privileged.
And I think that is maybe the why of why we're having these discussions, is because it isn't being talked about. It isn't being socialized. We're not paying attention to this community.
It's never talked about. I mean, maybe if you're living under a rock.
This has, and my cat sometimes does this, she gets really loud suddenly, so you'll have to just allow for the little meowing in the background.
This is like a skit. If it wasn't so sad, it would be funny. But people's lives are at risk because these people think that the disaster relief, that should be centered around helping people who are LGBTQ. That what we really need right now is to be creating even more division. I don't know, I feel like regardless of who you sleep with or your race, victims of the hurricane, they all require shelter, food, water, medical aid, and that should all be given based on the urgency.
The shift that we're seeing right now is a shift in emergency management from utilitarian principles where everything is designed for the greatest good for the greatest amount of people to disaster equity. But we have to do more.
Disaster equity? So focusing on people's sexuality, pronouns, race, any of that when discussing disaster relief, it's not just unnecessary, it's also unfair to prioritize certain groups in this way, especially when we think about the fact that FEMA should be operating with neutrality. Yeah, so the people who are suffering get the same level of care regardless, again, of who they are attracted to. But hey, on the bright side, there is a way for the government to care about you if you're an American suffering right now. Hopefully you're LGBTQ or a person of color, because otherwise the priority will be foreigners or people who are here illegally. So if you happen to be a white, straight citizen, good luck prioritizing international aid or making an appearance on Call Her Daddy during critical times like this is obviously disgraceful. That being said, I hope we can continue to spread awareness about this and what's really happening regarding the victims of this hurricane, because this unfortunately will not be the last disaster that we face. And we need more people to speak up about this to ensure that our leaders wake up from their nap or stop cackling like a hyena for a second and start prioritizing the citizens in need and get serious about real solutions. That's all for today's video, guys. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Also remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.